Resident Evil Gaiden is an extremely ambitious Game Boy Color game developed by M4 and a couple members from Capcom. This game is considered non-canon and is a big step away from what fans were used to gameplay-wise. Resident Evil Gaiden stars both Barry Burton and Leon S. Kennedy as protagonists. They're sent in to infiltrate a cruise liner to investigate an escaped Umbrella BOW. Gaiden has both a top-down exploration mode and, when you get grabbed by an enemy, a first-person combat mode. In the combat mode, an enemy can either be far away from the player, in the middle of the field, or right up in the player's face. There are several different weapons that appear in the game, but we're only going to be using the worst one of them for the whole game. The knife can only actually hit enemies when they're right up in your face, leaving you open to plenty of counterattack. The rules of this challenge are, first, during combat I can only damage enemies with the knife. This means that I'm allowed to equip a gun if I want to initiate combat from afar, but I can't shoot any bullets. And that's actually the only rule. But with that out of the way, time to find out. Can you beat Resident Evil Gaiden with only the knife? We begin the game on the second floor deck and immediately equip the knife. We run over to the nearest room and encounter a bunch of zombies. We swerve past them and head through the west side to the kitchen and the fridge, where we grab the crew area key for later. Then we headed back up to the fourth floor deck and killed this zombie for a keycard that we'll need to unlock the security room. Inside the security room, we look at the computer and then hear a scream, so we head on over to the east deck and check it out. When we arrive, we find a little girl being attacked by a huge BOW. We lost to it once, and then backtracked to get a little bit more health before we gave the fight another shot. We still ended up losing another 4 times, but eventually we managed. We gave the knife to the little girl for a bit, and killed this zombie for the east elevator key, then shuffled on over to said elevators. Then we grabbed the first class key and went back that way, but the BOW surprised us with another ambush by the elevators. I'll take this chance to mention that while this footage is edited, I'll be sure to include a link in the description to the full unedited gameplay footage for any doubters. With the help of some Kevlar and actually having full HP, we defeat the BOW first try here. Next, we jumped through a hole in one of the first-class cabin's floor, landing in a lounge on the second floor, where we met up with Leon and lost contact with Lucia. We headed up to the piano lounge and slew this zombie for the library key. We then used the library key to get the third floor lounge key, and then we get a computer reboot card from a zombie in said lounge. Then we went down to the crew elevator and took it to the first floor, where we grabbed all the key items with ease. I discovered that if you ignore looking at the security cameras to find Lucia, then none of the enemies on the first floor spawn. After grabbing everything, we then backtracked to look at said security cameras. We learned that Lucia was on the second floor east deck, and rushed right over to square up for a third fight with the BOW. This fight was brutal. I accidentally fought too much on the way, and got here with super low HP on both of my characters. I'm talking one tap death on both. I took one death and then decided that I needed to find some health. I backtracked a little bit and killed some weak enemies, when both the Lord Nintendo and Shinji Mikami took some pity on me. A green herb, the weakest health item in the game. I looked around for any additional items, but this was gonna have to suffice. During the next attempt, I reveled in the fact that Barry could now barely survive one hit from the BOW. So I challenged RNGesus to a match. I challenged him over and over, waiting for the perfect storm of crits from myself and absolute whiffs from him. And, on my 16th attempt, we laid into him, doing constant damage. We land a few strikes, he misses a counter, then we go ham and get 2 crits. We took a solid punch, and then nailed 3 more crits and some regular hits to send him down. Next, an explosion rocks the ship, and Barry leaves the party to go contact HQ. Meanwhile, Leon goes to the first floor data room to turn on the sprinkler system. Afterwards, Leon and Lucia headed up to the security office to find Barry on the cameras. Then went on down to the piano bar to meet back up with him. When we did, Barry forcibly took Lucia on board an umbrella submarine, leaving Leon aboard the sinking Starlight to fend for himself. Leon made his way to the engine room to try and prevent any serious fires from decimating both the engine and the nearby boiler room. In the middle of the engine room, however, stood a very tall obstacle. Now, this is the point where the run should end. This is the first of 3 different fights with the BOW, where it doesn't have a health amount in the strictest sense. The objective in these last 3 encounters with him is to do enough damage to knock him back from near to mid, from mid to far, and then do enough damage when he's far and you win. There is no developer-intended way to defeat the BOW with only the knife from here on out. But that doesn't mean we can't complete the game. The speedrunners of this game have found a way to glitch out the BOW fights by dragging a zombie from nearby to attack you during the cutscene where you commence battle with it. If you time it correctly, the BOW will challenge you menacingly, but you'll end up in a battle with normal enemies, who can be dispatched by normal means. Then, we walked into a glitch trigger to start the next part. After this quote-unquote BOW fight, we regain control of Barry and Lucia on the submarine, who are facing down against a zombified submarine commander. This guy was no joke. He had more health than anything you can face up until this point, including the BOW. Finally, on my 8th attempt, and using 2 whole healing items, I was able to defeat him. Then in the outside corridor, we tangoed with this zombie, who I've decided to call Larry, for like 10 minutes until we finally got around him. Then Barry and Lucia escaped the sub, but the Starlight was still sinking, and they all needed to evac. So Barry and Lucia ran over to the engine room to grab Leon, and then ran back to the crew elevators on the 2nd floor. Here, we lured a zombie from the room below and did the BOW skip again. Then we glitched the final boss spawning trigger by going slightly into it and then doubling back into the previous room. After that, we walk forward and... mission complete. Can you beat Resident Evil Gaiden knife only? Hell yes. Feel free to try this challenge for yourself. It was quite fun to do, in all honesty. But that'll be all for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Drop a like or subscribe and have a great day.